Hi there, this is Tony from pianotone.ca. So I'm sitting here with my Yamaha CK-88 stage piano, which you can see is on and working. And the battery compartment is empty right now, and this is the power adapter for my CK-88, which you can see is not plugged in. So what's powering my CK-88 right now? Well, one of my absolute favorite accessory purchases ever. This is my review on the Talentcell Lithium-ion battery pack, model YB1206,000. Let's check it out. Okay, so I started using rechargeable batteries with my CK-88 pretty early on in my band practices, but they often wouldn't quite make it through longer practices, often giving out at about 1.5 to 2 hours in. Just given the layout of the room we were in, it was convenient to be able to go without AC power, and one of the only things about the CK series that I haven't really been that impressed with is for a stage keyboard that is meant to be hauled around a lot, the power adapter and attached cord are really kind of a little on the flimsy side. Like, this is a really thin wire, and wrapping this up and unwrapping it and wrapping it up and unwrapping it multiple times per week to haul the keyboard around can put some wear and tear on this pretty quick. This is actually the power adapter from my PSR EW425, which sells for far less than the CK-88, and this is a much heavier duty power adapter, so I'm kind of surprised Yamaha did that. Then I started looking at portable generator options, but I wasn't too excited at the prospect of having to haul more heavy stuff around with me when I go to practices or gigs. Then I came across these Talentcell lithium-ion batteries. I bought one with the correct specs for the CK-88, and it has been a game changer. Our weekly band practices are between 1.5 and 3 hours, and I can get through 2 band practices and another 30 to 60 minutes a day in between those 2 practices from a single charge on the Talentcell. So I don't have an exact amount of time that I get per charge, but when it's fully charged, easily 4 to 5 hours without any issue, and quite likely a bit more. I actually tend to use it at home as well to try and drain it as much as possible before my next band practice, so I can go to those with a full charge. Okay, so I mentioned that I bought the model that has the correct specs for the CK-88. Now, I am not an electronics specialist, so I do need to emphasize here, if you're going to buy a lithium-ion battery for a keyboard, whether it's Talentcell or any other brand, make sure you research it carefully to make sure you know it's going to be compatible. I'm not going to be able to answer any questions in the comments that ask, will such and such a battery work with such and such model of keyboard or piano? Please do that due diligence yourself. And if you have a Yamaha CK-88 and you follow my link to the Talentcell model that I purchased, double check that it is indeed the same one, because Amazon will often display different models or alternatives in your area if it doesn't happen to have the one that I link to in stock. So what were the specs that I checked before buying mine? I looked on Yamaha's site at the power specs for the CK series, which showed 12 volts and 1.5 amps. Then I looked at the power adapter itself that came with my CK-88, which also shows 12 volts and 1.5 amps, and also shows the polarity as positive on the inside ring and negative on the outside ring. Then I checked the specs of the Talentcell batteries and found that the YB1206,000 matches. 12 volts and 3 amps, and the polarity is also positive center and negative outer ring. So once again, I'm not an electronics specialist, but what my online research told me was make sure that the volts on your battery match your piano power specs exactly, which they do in this case. They're both at 12 volts. Make sure that the amps on your battery are equal or greater than the amps on your piano power specs, which they are. The battery has 3 amps and the piano specs are 1.5. And also make sure that the polarity matches, which it does. The battery and the piano power both have positive inside and negative ring outside. So what does the Talentcell come with? You get the battery itself, you get a power adapter for charging the battery, and you also get a handy Y cable. So you can use this to connect the battery to your CK-88. And the nice added feature is that because this is a Y cable, I can actually plug the power adapter into the Y cable, connect the power adapter to the wall, still connect this to my CK-88, and then I can charge the battery at the same time as I'm powering the piano. I've never actually done that myself since I get more than enough time out of a single charge, but I do always keep the power adapter close at hand while I'm playing, just in case I need it. So for charging, it does take a few hours, probably about 5 or 6, to fully charge the battery, depending on how low it is. And for charging, you don't actually need the Y cable. You can just take the power adapter, plug it into the battery, plug it into the wall to charge. Now, there are 5 lights that indicate the current battery level remaining. You can see it's at 4 right now. That's actually not how you tell whether or not it's fully charged, though. There's also a light on the bottom of the adapter. So when you're charging, that's going to be red up until it's fully charged, when that turns green. And then that's how you know that you're done charging. Now, the 5 lights on the battery itself are great to have, but they're not very accurate. Basically, within a minute or so of powering on the CK using the battery, it will immediately go from 5 lights to 4. Then it's going to sit at 4 lights for probably 3 hours or so. Then it'll go to 3 lights, and when it's at 3 lights, it's got another 2 to 3 hours left, so a total of between 5 and 6. But it never goes to 2 lights, which is unfortunate. Basically goes from 3 lights to no more power. So while I do wish it would go to 2 lights for even 15 minutes or so, just as a warning that you're about to run out of power, I haven't found it to be too hard keeping track of where the battery level is at. I'll typically charge the battery once a week or so prior to my band practice, then I'll use it at home as well to drain it a bit further, and then recharge it again for the next band practice. And I just actually tested this at an outside gig this weekend, and it was great. We had some trouble getting sound set up in the first place, so between a long sound check and then 2 full sets, the battery was in use with my CK for about 2.5 to 3 hours, and when I came back, it was still at 4 lights. There are also other versions available. There is a YB120-3000, which has a lower charge capacity, so it won't last as long. I'm assuming about half the time of the one I bought, which is the 120-6000. Given that they're really close in price, in my opinion, you might as well at least get the one I got, which is the 120-6000, which has twice the capacity. Then there's also a YB120-8300-USB, which has a longer capacity still, and it also actually has a 5-volt USB charging port for any devices compatible with that, so you could charge that simultaneously. And there are also USB versions of the one I bought, and the weaker one. So you can get a 120-6000-USB or a 120-3000-USB. And then there's a top-of-the-line model, which is the YB120-11000-USB, which also has that USB port and even more capacity still. I'm actually wishing I had seen the USB-equipped versions before buying mine. Having the ability to also power my iPad and possibly a small mixer using a USB hub would be a huge feature for me. That being said, I have no idea how much more powering those things might drain the battery, but I probably will eventually pick up one of the USB-equipped models, probably the top-of-the-line YB120-11000 USB, so that I have some USB ability. If I do go ahead with that, I'll probably test out using it to power my CK, my iPad, and a mixer just to see how it goes. And if it can power all 3, then that's going to be great. And if not, I'll still have my existing battery that I could always use if necessary. So I could have 2 going, one for the USB devices and one for my piano. But that's still far less to have to carry around than a generator. So my verdict on the Talentcell YB120-6000 battery pack, I love it. And I can highly recommend it or any of the other Talentcell models that I mentioned. Except I would probably not recommend the YB120-3000. I'm sure it works fine. And if it is indeed half the capacity, it would probably get you through a 3-hour session okay. But given that it's only about $10 less expensive than the one that I bought, why not at least get the YB120-6000? To be honest, it's only another $10 to $20 to get the top-of-the-line model with the USB charging and an even bigger capacity than the one that I bought. So that's probably the way to go. And I do have to mention once more, if you are going to purchase a battery for your keyboard, whether it is Talentcell or any other brand, please make sure you do your own due diligence to make sure it's going to be compatible. As I mentioned earlier, I am not an electronics specialist, so I won't be able to answer any questions in the comments about whether a certain battery may or may not work with a certain keyboard. So that's pretty much it for this video. If you like the content, please smash the like button and subscribe to my channel. That does really help me out. I've left links below where you can check out prices for the Talentcell batteries I mentioned in your area, as well as some links to some online piano training that I recommend. So thanks again for checking out the channel and have an awesome day.